a warning?
There ain't nothing to worry about.
I'm worried that you work in an office, have children, celebrate wedding anniversaries. The world of heterosexual is a sick and boring life.
You won't be able to move. You won't be able to scream. You won't be able to take your eyes off of Elvira's Haunted Hills.
Allow me to present Elvira.
Yeah, nice meeting you too.
Elvira!
Entertainer extraordinaire.
See Elvira stretch herself as an actress in her most challenging role.
I just love butterflies ever so much.
Richard O'Brien in his most horrifying performance since the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Oh, why? Why? Why?
Snap out of it. God, what are you going for, an Oscar?
A film that is so steamy,
Oh, Lord have mercy.
so shocking,
That's another unfortunate Elzebus family trait. Catalepsy.
Pair of cats?
you'll scream, you'll gasp, you'll die laughing.
Damn, I hate when that happens.
From the masterfully macabre mind of Elvira.
Right, like there's something going on in my mind.
Elvira's Haunted Hills.
The village people say this castle is evil.
Ah, who listens to the village people anymore?
Welcome back, listeners.
Welcome back. Another October episode.
It sure is. I feel like we haven't recorded in a while.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing like a October night running the AC.
I mean, it is currently 70 degrees in South Pasadena. We are lighting a candle for our friends in the Gulf Coast, our friends in Florida right now, because they are hunkering down in 80-degree heat, waiting for the second hurricane in a row to hit. It's been a wild year, everybody.
Yeah.
And a wild, spooky season.
I'm excited to talk about today's movie.
I am. We've been holding this one for a minute, and
I have some special information about this movie.
We'll see how this one goes
when we get further into the episode.
All right.
But
Well,
listeners,
my name's Pete.
and I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay. So we're revisiting Elvira.
Yes.
So I always knew ever since we did our first episode with Ben Cheeves back in 2020,
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, that we would be revisiting Elvira.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah.
I never knew if it would be doing Elvira's Haunted Hills like we are tonight, or just do Elvira, Mistress of the Dark again.
Right.
But Pete,
Yes.
did you know that Ben's episode was 200 episodes ago? This is the 200th podcast anniversary of us talking about Elvira, Mistress of the Dark with Ben Cheeves.
Well, I'll be
Could you
damned.
believe that?
I mean,
So I
it's
wanted to
kinda
look up the
wild.
episode number.
Yeah.
We did that with Charlie's Angels, and that was pretty fun because I just wanted to see what episode number that
So
was.
it's 56?
It was 56.
Holy cow.
That was summer of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
We always joke that all of the pandemic episodes are just like a blur.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's fun to revisit content from that we recorded in the pandemic. We did this for Interview with the Vampire, and we're kind of doing it tonight with Elvira. But we are specifically talking about Elvira's Haunted Hills, directed by Sam Irvin, written by Cassandra Peterson and John Paragon, released theatrically in one theater in Los Angeles, California, July 5th, 2001, after premiering at the International Rocky Horror Picture Show Fan Convention, July 23rd, and then released direct-to-video October 31st, 2002.
Wow. I mean, Is it a sequel to Mistress of the Dark?
Spiritual prequel. I mean, I think
Prequel,
that's
you're
what's
right.
kind of fun about a character like Elvira, that she's kind of like Ernest. That Ernest, in all of those movies, just kind of reinvents the character in every movie.
Right.
So I think that's kind of like what they're doing with Elvira's Haunted Hills.
Sure. There's less of a through line of like sequel and you have to watch this one to watch that one.
Elvira's timeline is always very fuzzy, so they can kind of play with it a little bit. And this movie, I mean, it is set in
the Carpathian Mountains.
The Carpathian Mountains in Transylvania.
Yes.
In 1851.
Right. Yeah. 1852. So, I mean, Elvira Mistress of the Dark takes place in modern times of 1987. 88, whenever it came out. So, yeah, I guess prequel, it's the same character. She's playing her a little different. I'm honestly a little surprised that the script was Elvira and John Paragon, because, I mean, it was a lot of years later.
I think that Sam Irvin, the director, kind of did a lot of rewrites, because I think this script had to be retooled a lot when they were shooting on location in Romania.
Okay.
So I think they had to kind of rethink a lot of directions that the story was going.
Sure.
Well, just for budgetary reasons when out shooting.
I think we need to go take it a little back. Like you said, we already talked about Mistress of the Dark, episode 56. We couldn't keep it in our pants. We had to talk about Elvira.
That was Ben's first episode.
It was Ben's first episode with us, Ben Cheeves. We're big Elvira fans in this house. We have met Cassandra.
We have a little shelf in our house, in our apartment, that is dedicated to Cassandra.
It's small compared to shrines that some people may have, but we've got a couple of items, a couple of signed things. We met her in person at Stan Lee's very first Stan Lee's Kamikaze, which is now, I think it's just called Stan Lee's Comic-Con. But it was the very first Stan Lee's Kamikaze back in 2014, earlier.
Maybe 2015, who knows?
Yeah. I was famously brought up on stage at Elvira's Cinema Seance.
Listeners, if you look up
at Knott's Berry
if you
Farm,
look up an OWN segment with Cassandra,
the OWN network,
you can see the segment opens with Pete on stage.
There's a clip package.
There's a clip package,
and it's a
and
montage,
Pete's in it.
and there's lots of scenes, and it's very brief. It's about 2 seconds, and there's a shot of me on stage with her at Elvira Cinema Seance, which was the name of the show that was happening at Knott's Scary Farm. At Knott's Berry Farm here in Orange County. And we recently saw her at a screening at the Motion Picture Academy Museum in Hollywood.
Hosted by Peaches Christ.
That was hosted by Peaches Christ and Michael Verratti. And she presented Mistress of the Dark there. So we have a big reverence for Elvira in this house. We could probably quote Mistress of the Dark. We could do a 2-man show with each of us just switching characters and act out the entire movie for you. Not so much with Elvira's Haunted Hills.
So interesting. It's always the second favorite Elvira movie of all of her fans.
And I mean, when you watch it, you'll kind of understand why. There's just something about Mistress of the Dark that just kind of feels like an 80s horror comedy. It feels like a real movie. Not that Haunted Hills isn't a real movie, but it just has a very kind of low-budget vibe to it.
Elvira Mistress of the Dark was produced by kind of a co-finance between NBC Studios and New World. So it was kind of a movie, like a traditional 80s movie that would be released in theaters nationwide.
Right. And, Elvira as a character is very hard to pin down. When you only watch Elvira's movie Macabre, you really get the kind of like quippy valley girl.
She's not quite a vampire. She's not really a witch. She's just kind of a spooky groupie.
Right.
That's how I kind of view Elvira.
But in Mistress of the Dark, I think she kind of really leaned into, we're going to do kind of this Pollyanna story.
Yeah.
Still being really funny, still being very quippy, still being very bawdy and having broad jokes about, her breasticles and all of that. But something about the character and her portrayal in this movie is a little different for me.
How so?
She's mean.
Mm-hmm. She's not.
Don't you think that?
She's not very nice. Get that? She's not very nice to Zuzu.
She's mean to Zuzu.
It's part of the comedy.
I know it's played for a laugh, but she was never. I do sassy. I don't do bitchy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of was her MO before. A little bit more of a lovable kind of. She was sassy. She always had a comeback, but it was never mean spirited. And in this movie, her relationship with Zuzu, her servant woman,
played by Mary Jo Smith.
It just comes off mean to me, and I was just like, oh gosh, I don't really want to root for her that much when she's that mean to her. And again, I know it's played for a joke, and some of the jokes pay off, but some of them don't. And I was just like, so I kind of had some issues with the character right off the bat, because I was like, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I mean, her name is Mistress of the Dark, but for all intents and purposes, the movie Mistress of the Dark, I don't feel like that character would be that mean if she had like this woman that was kind of her, maid.
So, what is your background with this movie? Do you remember renting this when it first came out on video?
No.
So you probably first watched this with me then.
Yeah.
Because I always knew that there was a second Elvira movie. Yep. I mean, I'm sure it was available that we could rent it, but I don't know if we just ever bothered to track it down.
Yeah.
And we're crazy Elvira fans, so it's kind of embarrassing.
I think it was hard to track down.
It took that long.
And then I think I may have just seen a preview and just been like, I don't know if this is for me, Mm-hmm. Just because I do have so much love and reverence for the first movie. And, even now we just put on, right as we were prepping for this, on YouTube, the unaired pilot,
the Elvira Show,
the sitcom with Katherine Hellman and John Paragon, and that has like very broad, over the top comedy. But that to me was more watchable. That to me was just fun
and
silly.
It's such a missed opportunity with the Elvira Show, because I think that the character lends itself to a sitcom formula so well that I think that, clearly the executives at I'm not sure if this was ABC or NBC. I think that they're shopping it around to Fox. Anybody, that clearly somebody watched this pilot and kind of knew something about this is working. And surprise, surprise, Sabrina the Teenage Witch shows up a few years later with a lot of elements of the sitcom.
Listeners, if you just look up the Elvira Show, unaired pilot, it's Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah.
Elvira is not Sabrina. She's one of the aunts.
Mm-hmm.
She's the younger aunt, so I would say which one is the younger aunt? Is it Hilda or Zelda? Who knows?
I think that Zelda is the older one.
Okay, so then
are we agreeing that
Katherine Hellman?
Well, I was just saying the younger aunt of who's the comedian?
Caroline Rhea.
Are we agreeing that Caroline Rhea is the younger aunt?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline Rhea is totally the younger aunt on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Absolutely. Yeah, Caroline Rhea, call me. You were definitely the younger one. So it kind of follows that format. It's like two witchy aunts, and then they get like a teen niece that comes to live with them, and there's a fucking talking black cat.
Yeah.
But, that's neither here nor there. That didn't get picked up.
I remember when Peaches Christ and Michael were doing the Q&A with Cassandra. I remember her mentioning that if she had to do it all over again, that she would go kind of all in on the television show.
Yeah.
Instead of the movie.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting.
Well, I think, as a performer, as an actor, whatever, I think, especially in the 80s, the goal was movies.
Especially for
The
For
goal
comedy,
was movies.
the goal was movies.
You
Yep.
wanted a movie. You wanted a movie that could possibly be a franchise and sequels and all that stuff. And sitcoms were great, but I don't know. I just don't think at the time it was looked upon as highly as movies, and B, you probably didn't get as much money. But I mean, if you got 10, 11 years out of it, I think,
in the long run, a
I think
television
Alan
show
Peg
would
Bundy
be
are probably sitting pretty if they
Yeah.
never worked again after Married with Children. If you get a successful show and you're the lead and you created it and you get 10 seasons out of it, by the end of it, you're doing pretty good.
You're set for life.
Yeah.
Especially if you're one of the leads.
Right. And so that, I think in another time, another place, I think it could have worked. I
Sure.
think Fox could have picked it up. I think it could have lasted a solid, few seasons,
And
5,
there
6
are-
seasons.
and-
It looked
and you
it's
could-
funny when you watch it.
Yeah, and you could see elements of the 1988 movie that you could just translate that into a sitcom
Totally.
format. That
Yeah.
Elvira ends up in this little small town of her aunt, and she discovers this book, and that she's sort of a witch,
Right.
too. So I mean, I could see
Befriending
that.
the local teens.
Yeah, I could see that kind
all
of
that fun stuff.
built around a season.
Yeah. But even the show as it is, I think still kind of works. And it doesn't even
definitely,
need to
yeah.
focus on the teenage niece. She can be a peripheral character and really Elvira be the star. Catherine Hellman is great. She's a funny comedian, so she just works, And yeah, Elvira as a character and Cassandra has really strong comedy connections. So having Lynn Marie Stewart and Edie McClurg and all these people from the Pee Wee Elvira universe,
Phil Hartman,
just dropping in. Yeah.
Anybody working at the Groundlings in the 80s.
Yeah. John Paragon is doing the voice of the cat, but he could also be a character, because he's just a funny actor, right? So I think there was really a lot of potential there, and it's really interesting that it didn't get picked up. Or maybe when the networks didn't pick it up, they were just like, all right, and they just didn't do the legwork of shopping it around or really trying, really trying to get it picked up somewhere else, because she was just like, well, it's TV. Let's really. Was it after the movie?
It's 1990.
Oh,
the show.
It's well
I
after
think
the
it was.
movie,
I think it's early 90s.
Okay.
I think it's 93.
Yeah, it looks like early 90s.
Yeah.
That reminds me. I was talking to you about that 90s show that got canceled.
Axed after.
Got axed after 3 seasons.
I mean, I never know.
Okay,
I never know with Netflix if it's technically one season.
So here's the thing. Yeah. So I guess for their single camera. Not single camera. It's a multi-camera. Classic sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for Netflix original multi-camera shows, which means shot like a regular sitcom in front of a stage and there's 4 cameras, as opposed to all being edited together like something like Arrested Development, say. More like Married with Children, right? For those kind of shows, they get a first season and then the seasons after that are split up into parts. I don't know why. I just read it that way.
Just a weird Netflix
That's
thing.
what Netflix does.
Yeah.
So 90s show got season 1, and then it got season 2 then it got part 2 and part 3 or something like that. Something weird. So it gets canceled, but Kurtwood Smith puts out this, post saying like, it's not over. Like,
there's still episodes that need to air.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily that, just that he and Deborah are just going to fight to get this picked up somewhere else.
Oh, sure. Kind of like
that they're shopping it.
Girls 5 Eva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're just like, we're shopping the show and there's more story and we're not going to let it end here. And I was like, fuck yeah, man. That's cool. I feel like, and I just love that it's Kitty and Red, Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp are just like, yeah, man, we're gonna get this fucking bag. Like,
yeah,
Netflix picked up this show, started it. We got a solid cast. We got 3 seasons. Like, come on, who wants it? Let's go. People want to watch this.
I mean, I would think that Peacock would probably be quick to pick
I would
it
think
up.
that would be the next place for them to go. Yeah. It's charming. It's corny, but I watched it. It's not the best thing on earth, but It is what it is. Anyway, I think at the time, Cassandra and the powers that be were probably just like, well, the major network who we were shopping it to passed, and so that's the end of it, right? But I think nowadays they would just be like, okay, Fox, all right, syndication,
Yeah.
Baywatch style.
They could do a Mama's Family.
Yeah, Mama's Family. First run syndication.
Mama's Family move.
First run syndication is a thing. All the Star Trek shows were usually on it until Paramount became a network. It's a whole situation, and it was just a different time in the early 90s for television shows. And but I think like I said, I've said it 3 times already. Go find it on YouTube, watch it. I think it's a solid effort for a pilot. And pilots, shows usually only get better after the pilot. So that's my 2 cents.
We always talk about the kind of the missed opportunities of if you were going to explore Elvira as a character in other movies like Ernest.
Right.
That Elvira saves Halloween. Elvira gets a Girl Scout troop.
Yeah.
Elvira, help me out here. What are other elevator pitches for Elvira?
Yeah, does Elvira go to Hawaii?
Elvira goes Hawaiian, sure.
Yeah, you said saves Christmas.
Well, I think it would more be saves Halloween.
But don't you think saves Christmas would be fun? Because
Elvira
it's like the juxtaposition
Elvira
of like...
learns the true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking of Pee-wee things. Elvira joins the circus. Elvira has a farm. Oh, wait. That's
Elvira joins the army.
Elvira joins the army. Elvira for president.
Elvira for president. Elvira maybe joins the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Oh, my gosh.
If you were going to do like a sports movie.
Does Elvira marry a prince?
Elvira falls in love with we'll say like a Romanian prince or something.
Yeah.
From an Eastern European country.
Genovia.
And is whisked away.
Yeah.
But, okay, so we bought the Scream Factory Blu-ray a few years ago. We really gave it a proper watch of Haunted Hills. And you know what? I'll say this. I think this movie grows on me with each viewing.
Sure.
That I think that I like it a little more every time we watched it. I was looking on my Letterboxd reviews. I've locked this movie like 4 times.
Yeah.
So it is a movie that I do return to.
We got our $27.99.
We got our $27.99 worth of this disc. The transfer looks great.
It's a beautiful transfer.
Like it's the best that this movie probably shot on early digital is ever going to look. And I have to say...
That's the thing. It looks like it's shot on digital. Yeah. Doesn't look like it's filmed. That's what I'm saying.
Which is very much of the time of the early 2000s when doing a very independent movie that... What I like about it is that it really made me track down the Edgar Allan Poe, the Edgar Allan Poe movies of the 1960s, primarily starring Vincent Price.
Right.
That is kind of what Cassandra and John were going for, is this kind of send up to all of those old movies. I mean, you could even classify something like the Hammer horror movies in with it too.
Yeah, for somebody who really kind of is not super aware, were they Corman movies? Were they Roger Corman movies?
The Edgar Allan Poe movies were directed by Roger Corman.
If you're not super familiar with these Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe, Vincent Price movies of the 60s, the next closest thing is it looks like a Hammer horror movie, right? But as we're watching it, we watch the commentary and we watch the plentiful special features on this disc. Cassandra really is kind of giving us this history lesson on these movies, right? And everything from the paint swirling opening credit sequence to just this crazy set piece of this castle interior.
I was reading that Sam Irvin said that the main set piece was mostly inspired by the Haunted Palace.
Is that the one we watched?
And that's the one that we watched the other night.
And we said, this looks like Haunted. We said, this looks exactly like the house.
I think that he was really proud of how they captured that set. And kind of this...
Even down to the stupid little, door that opens up that's very, the Oompa Loompa door that's well, that's not how a rock door would open. That's, fully laser cut into this rock wall. That's how it was in the Vincent Price movie. That's how it is here to go to the dungeon.
Walking up those stairs and looking at the paintings.
Walking up those stairs with no railing. Where's OSHA? building this house.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what I grow to appreciate about it now, is that I think for what it is, I would say it's successful.
Yeah.
Of kind of doing a spoof of all of those old 60s movies.
I'll say when we did watch The Haunted Palace, I was like, okay, now I get it.
This afternoon, I watched The Mask of the Red Death.
All right.
Which is also a Roger Corman movie. And that movie has a very, like, stylized 60s look to it that I think that it would have been really fun to see something like that put on this movie. I think this movie just had a lot of budgetary reasons.
Yeah, budgetary
of just
constraints.
kind of looking the way it did.
Yeah.
Maybe if money was no object and it was funded by, like, Sony Pictures or something, it could kind of have that very grand sweeping look. But I mean, this movie was like funded by Cassandra.
Yeah.
This was a big passion project for her that she had always wanted to do a follow-up feature film to Mistress of the Dark that it wasn't very successful at the time, financially at the time, but it grew to have a really big audience on video. On like video cassette, so she knew that there is an audience for a sequel, and she had to, I mean, independently finance this movie with her and her then husband Mark. Right. They mortgaged their house and their apartment building that they co-owned to raise $1 million and donations from friends, relatives, just to make this movie. I think that the budget was a little over $1 million. Yeah. And they decided to kind of really they decided to film the movie in Romania. So they actually shot it in Transylvania.
Right.
So they are quite literally filming in the land of Dracula, Pete.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's still parts of Romania that are technically called Transylvania today, but yeah, it's a whole thing. It's been a long time.
So that was bringing me back of Transylvania. Romania, at this time in the early 2000s, they would do a few studio productions there when they wanted to kind of maybe It's Cold Mountain. Cold Mountain was shot out of Romania.
I feel like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen also was.
Mm-hmm. So
or maybe that's Hungary.
Either Hungary or Romania, somewhere in Eastern Europe. But yeah, it was a thing at the time where these studios, to kind of really stretch the budget, that they would shoot in Eastern Europe. Yeah. And probably around the time Elvira's Haunted Hills was probably just finishing up production, Miramax was about to start shooting Cold Mountain with Nicole Kidman there. Yeah. So yeah, just kind of this interesting time where Romania started to show up in movies.
Yeah. I remember reading that and just being like, specifically about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, just being like, that's such an interesting choice. Like, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe with Cold Mountain, it's a great choice because Romania still has a very old world look to it, and I think that there are areas that you could sub for
the American South.
The American South in Civil War times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I guess period pieces, something where there's unfettered wilderness. You know, you're not.
What kills me when watching it tonight, and Cassandra pointed it out in one of the documentaries, is when they're in the little small town, the village, all the villagers like, oh, look at they costumed all of these villagers. They look so authentic. Yeah. She's like, those are just the people. Those are just the people in
Romania. My gosh.
That they did not have to dress anybody. That is just so how...
That's not true.
That is just how stuck in the past all of those people are.
Because they look like medieval villagers.
Yeah. Maybe they did with some, but she said like that's just how they really didn't have to do much.
Funny.
Yeah.
I think that's or is that a Cassandra joke? All right. Another thing about this movie is throughout from the beginning to the end, you're gonna get a lot of this. There are some sound effects abound in this movie, and especially
I don't hate it though.
No, I don't hate it, and especially when Elvira, as a character, her body and her boobs are very much. Cassandra just kind of owns it, and so when she's just bouncing around and jumping in and out of windows, and you're just, hey,
zoinks.
What? Yeah, there's a lot of like Scooby Doo kind of like
Shaking your head effect.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of that stuff. I wish I had more of those effects on here, but you know, I think they're used effectively. It's not to the point where you're like, all right, with these effects. I really like the song.
Yeah.
Her can review.
Well, we kind of get a little taste of this movie, and also Mistress of the Dark is built around Elvira is traveling somewhere
to put on a show.
Which I kind of like that as a through line for what's driving this character. Is in Elvira Mistress of the Dark, she has to make it to the Flamingo, and in this movie, she has to make it to Paris.
Call the Flamingo, Manny. Call the Flamingo, Manny. And I told you in our Mistress of the Dark episode, all the way back in episode 56, every time she said "call the Flamingo," I thought she was talking about a person.
You thought she was talking about the mob.
I was like, "Who's the Flamingo?"
The
that
mob
was like a mobster
that runs Vegas. That's funny.
Get the Flamingo on the phone, Manny.
So yeah, I like her little can.
Well,
this is
it kind of goes back to Cassandra's roots. She's a showgirl.
Being a showgirl in Vegas.
She's a showgirl.
Going on dates with Elvis.
When she did her little routine in the movie, she's doing a kick line. She's doing and it's her, and it looks good. Like, it looks like she's a trained professional.
This would
dancer.
be what she would be doing 5 days a week at Crazy Horse.
At the Flamingo.
Isn't it Crazy Horse is in
where?
Is in Paris?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crazy Horse in Paris. Yeah, and that's a true like I always get European Vacation, like the topless dancers doing like aerobics. I love that shit. Listeners, European Vacation still slaps.
Yeah, we watched a lot.
Chevy Chase, whatever. It's a funny movie. Yeah, I think all the can like performance, her little dance number, really works. There's some successful stuff in this movie.
Do you know also kind of if we're kind of going for the things that I enjoy about this movie is I really enjoy Scott Atkinson as Dr. Bradley Bradley.
My name is Dr. Bradley. Dr. Bradley Bradley.
Oh, your mother must have thought you looked so nice she named you twice. Elvira's the name. Showbiz the game. I'm just in the process of fulfilling my lifelong dream of opening in a world-renowned Parisian review.
I know.
You do?
But of course, your reputation precedes you.
Oh, damn, I hate when that happens. I don't owe you any money, do I?
Good Lord, no. I found your playbill in the village.
Oh, yes, of course.
And I must say, it's quite a titillating image.
Yes, it is quite a good likeness, isn't it?
Quite.
Yes.
I think he's doing some solid work in this movie.
Dr. Bradley, very handsome. He is doing some good work. He's got like some accent stuff going on.
He even kind of looks like a young Vincent Price too.
I can see it.
And how they style him.
With the facial hair and the little thin mustache and all of that.
His
voice. His voice work that he does. Yeah, Scott Atkinson unfortunately passed away in 2021.
I remember when Cassandra.
Did Cassandra post about that?
Posted about him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was very young. He was 54 in 2021 when he passed. But yeah, he is doing some solid work in this movie. Very funny, and I am not super familiar with him as an actor, but as soon as he came on the screen in this, I was like, "Ooh, who is this?"
Just kind of a working character actor. I think
a lot of TV.
I think that he had done some stuff with the director.
Okay.
That they mentioned that Sam Irvin and Cassandra pretty much casted this movie themselves. That they couldn't afford a casting director, but they kind of figured there's not that many roles of this movie. We know a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I think we can just do it ourselves.
Right.
And Cassandra said that she found Mary Shear and Mary Jo Smith from the Groundlings. That I think that Mary Jo Smith was at the Groundlings at the time they were writing the movie, and Mary Shear was on Mad TV at the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
she was. Mary Shear plays Zuzu, her maid, and Mary Jo Smith plays Zuzu, her maid, and Mary Shear plays Lady Erna. Yeah, Lady Erna Hilzebus. She's kind of like the in parentheses it says the adulteress. She kind of plays like the evil woman character that we're not so sure about her intentions throughout the movie.
I was trying to remember this actress on Mad TV, and if I could remember any sketches with her.
Like big characters that she would do. Let's see. I remember her from Mad TV, and I'm trying to think of like. But you just always get Nicole Sullivan and
She was a
Stewart's
recurring.
mom
She was a
in your
recurring
head.
character on iCarly.
On iCarly.
She even came back for the reboot.
Oh, work.
Okay, I'm seeing some of her characters that she would do. I'm seeing Demi Moore, Susan Sarandon, Kathy Griffin, Mary Tyler Moore, Candice Bergen, Fran Drescher, Shirley MacLaine, Emma Thompson, Ashley Judd, Jerry Halliwell.
These are probably like one-off
Yeah.
impersonations. I remember this like very tan lady. I don't know her name.
Oh,
but
she did a Barbara.
She did a Barbara impersonation.
She did a. I think that she also did a Dana Scully.
Okay, all right. Well, at any rate, she was a Groundlings alum, and Elvira famously, or Cassandra famously, came from the Groundlings.
Kind of
here
created
in
the
LA.
character at the Groundlings too.
Richard O'Brien.
Riff-Raff.
Richard O'Brien Riff-Raff is Lord Helzebus in this movie.
Did you
the
read
main
who
bad.
was originally cast as this character?
Did it say
And
Richard Chamberlain?
It was Richard Chamberlain.
That's
and
crazy.
He decided to take a better paying job last minute, and they got
Not a better paying job.
They got Richard O'Brien pretty last minute.
Okay. All right. Not a better paying job.
Wasn't Cassandra in one of those 80s
Thornbirds?
One of those 80s Indiana Jones knockoff movies with Richard Chamberlain?
There you go.
Yeah.
She was. She was in one of the Alan Quartermain. What's the name of the company?
Canon.
She was in one of the Alan Quartermain Canon movies. It's going to be way down here in the list. It was this. I think it was the sequel. I think it was the second one. Let's see. Man, her filmography's pretty big. Just say Julie, Elvira Mistress. It's pre-Mistress of the Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold, 1986. With Alan Quartermain with Richard Chamberlain and Sharon Stone and James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I remember Cassandra doing interviews for that Canon documentary that came out a few years ago.
Yes, well, because the whole thing is that they really edited that movie to shit, and she was like the main bad guy as they shot it, and she's really cut down to like a few minutes.
Yeah.
In the movie, and they kind of restructured it, and she didn't know until a lot later. But I think those Alan Quartermain movies, I don't think they were very. I mean, I know they did a sequel, but canon was canon. They were just making whatever the hell they wanted.
All right. Well, let's go back to Elvira's Haunted Hills. So let's talk about the Roger Corman and Edgar Allan Poe kind of inspiration. So we have a haunted castle.
Yeah.
It's something that you see a lot in those movies.
Yeah. I also read that some of the interiors for the castle were used in high spirits.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Which I don't know.
You love high spirits.
I don't know about the validity of that bit of trivia.
We've talked about doing high spirits on the show too.
Yes, indeed. I mean, 1980s, Steve Guttenberg and Liam Neeson, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Like, sign me up. But anyway, yeah, I think a lot of the movies, like we said, had these very dreamy 60s kind of like opening sequences with these like paint tanks and just like all these swirly colors. Mary Shear's character is styled very. We were talking about it, when we were watching the what is it called? The chalet, the haunted chalet, the haunted
palace.
We're watching the haunted palace. We're like, these women. It's supposed to be like the 19th century, and these women all look very like early 60s.
Yeah.
Like they all look super like bouffant. Like,
and they kind of have fun with that styling when they have Cassandra as the deceased lover.
Yes.
They kind of have fun with that styling.
Right.
You know what movie I was thinking of with Cassandra in the bathtub is I think that's a little homage to Sharon Tate in that scene in the Fearless Vampire Killers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see that. I think Cassandra has mentioned Fearless Vampire Killers, or she might have talked about it in the Q&A, or I think I've heard of her talking about that movie before. So that tracks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, just this big spooky mansion with secret doorways and crazy staircases, a big crack in the middle of I don't remember how she talks about it in the commentary, but the big crack in the mansion is there the whole movie. Is it supposed to be there though? You can see where it splits open.
Well, they mention earthquakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they mention earthquakes are happening in the castle. Because she says, "Don't worry, I'm from California."
Yeah.
So it's something that they do comment and joke about. I really like the scene where Dr. Bradley is walking Elvira up the stairs, the no railing stairs, and they're looking at all of the paintings of all of the ancestors of the Hells Above kind of lord.
Yeah.
And just this whole crazy family history. I think that they could have even done a crazy, scary movie joke there.
Yeah.
Like a Big Daddy Kane joke. I kind of a missed opportunity that you could have done something really silly in one of those paintings. They kind of do it, but I think that they could have really leaned into it.
Yeah.
You know what's something that I think that is a missed opportunity?
We love the Big Daddy Kane
for
joke
the movie. Yeah, it's
scary movie
so
too.
stupid. Do you know what I think is a really missed opportunity for this movie?
Yes.
Maybe it was just a budget thing, but I noticed that when you look up the trailer, they did it. Is this movie needs a filter?
It does, yeah.
It needs a filter that looks like it's an old piece of film from the 60s.
That's what gets me about the digital film.
And it's so funny that they had the idea of when they were marketing it, is that's what they did to the footage, because they edited it like an old trailer of one of those old Roger Corman movies.
Yeah.
And why not just do that for the entire movie?
Yeah, maybe some studio or someone was just in there saying like, it's cute for the trailer, but it's not going to work for 90 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it would have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if this movie really had a traditional studio looking at all of the dailies.
Say like, if
so
this
they could have
really
just done what they wanted.
Yeah, so it is interesting that they didn't do that. I think that would have really. I agree. I think that would have really helped if they put a film grain.
Yeah, it's
over
just
the whole movie.
It's so interesting of what a movie like this looks like now.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about The Love Witch.
Yes,
it would look like The Love Witch.
Yes,
like, and The Love Witch really
they leaned into
a great job of making it look like a movie that was shot in the late 60s or early 70s.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I guess that you're just kind of at the mercy of what technology you can afford at that time.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe Cassandra suggested it, and Sam was just like, "No, I don't like it."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm directing the movie. Mm-hmm. I don't want my movie to look that way." But it had to be somebody's decision, especially if they did that with the trailer. It also makes me think of the trailers, the Edgar Wright trailer in Grindhouse.
Don't. And Don't's kind of really leaning into the hammer horror of just kind of the English Gothic manner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe movies kind of are in the same kind of wheelhouse, right? The Haunted Manor is wild because they're all like or not manor. What is it?
The Haunted Palace.
Haunted Palace. I remember that it's palace because she's like, a palace in America? And I was like, yeah, I guess. What is a palace? Like a palace, like a residence for royalty? What was I going to say? So they were really going for Edgar Allan Poe. These are Edgar Allan Poe adaptations, and Haunted Palace, it had nothing to do with no damn Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
There's like no.
It was kind of, well, it's also kind of like a grab bag of it too, that we're
Yeah.
taking a lot of,
Yeah.
we're taking a lot of inspirations.
Yeah. That movie's
all of
wild. It has everything. It deformed children. Like
Well, I was just watching Mask of the Red Death, and I was messaging Ben Cheeves about it. And He's like, "Yeah, that's one of the more crazy stylized Edgar Allan Poe movies."
Okay.
In that movie, when you see like the masquerade at the end of the movie, because the whole thing with Mask of the Red Death, the short, is that it all revolves around they're all gathered for this mass ball that they're all kind of hiding out from the Black Death. And in the 60s movie directed by Roger Corman, they're wearing the craziest outfits. And there is fully someone in a gorilla suit.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Is it a lady in the gorilla suit?
No.
I hope so. Yeah. I love that kind of shit. I feel like
But yeah, and I think that's something that maybe the Elvira's Haunted Hills, if it had just kind of a bigger budget that they could really lean into. But I mean, this is a very modest movie when it comes down to it. And I think that for what it is and the amount of money that they spent on it, I do think it looks pretty good. That when you see the main climax of this movie, kind of the big pit in the pendulum scene, I think it looks pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I think that it's money well spent for shooting this movie in Romania, where you could have this giant set that could only be shot in somewhere like Pinewood or the Bond stage in London, and they could kind of do that in Romania with
Yeah.
what budget that they had. So
Yeah,
I
totally.
think that scenes like that, I think, are really well done in this movie.
Yeah. And I think they really use the environment to their advantage. There's like scenes of them out like in the woods.
There's something so depressing about all of Romania in the daylight. It's just so depressing.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just kind of the joke of it with Elvira. When they're walking around all of the countryside in the daylight.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. But I think it's really like evocative, and it does feel like a Hammer movie. You know, it does feel like, I expect to see, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, just like running around in like a umpire waist like gown.
Not Dr. Quinn.
She was in some of the Hammer movies.
Jane Seymour?
Jane Seymour, yeah. You know who else was in some of the Hammer movies was I'm going to find this actress's name. She was in Troop Beverly Hills. She played the mom who was like a romance
the
novelist.
romance novelist?
Yes. And her name is, I want to say Stephanie Beacham.
Was she in Dracula in 1970, the 1970s Dracula, where he time travels to London in the 70s?
Oh gosh, I have to Dracula AD 1972. It's in her most known for. Stephanie Beacham. I love Stephanie Beacham. She's got a very like specific British accent, and she just has a smoky voice, and she plays a romance novelist very well. But she's in Secret Handjob, the Hammer horror movie that we all watched.
You always talk about Secret Handjob.
You weren't
I need
there.
to see it.
You weren't there for Secret Handjob. It's called "And the Screaming Begins" or "And the Screaming Stops." We were.
I think that Cassandra mentioned that as one of the big inspirations for this movie.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. We were. It's called "And Now the Screaming Starts." It's from 1973 with Stephanie Beacham and Peter Cushing. I was at a wedding in the hills in Big Bear. Drove up with some friends. Everybody got some cabins. And the cabin I was staying in with just some friends of mine, Jose and Autumn, and just some fun people. and we were like just having fun, drinking night before the wedding, and somebody put on the TV, and on the TV was a Hammer horror movie, and it's this haunted hand, and it's like Thing from the Addams Family, but it's like chopped off so you can see like the blood and the gore, and the hand is just crawling around the house strangling people and like killing ladies and all of that. And it was on
a bloody hand coming out of,
of a painting.
Oh, Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter Cushing is in it. And it was on regular television, so there were commercials, and we were like, what is the name of this movie? What is this?
You needed Joe Bob Briggs to like...
Yes, and we couldn't
to tell you what the name of it was.
Out. And we... and somebody was like, I think it's secret hand. And because the hand is crawling around, my friend Jose said, it's secret hand job. And so we always call it Secret Hand Job, but it was actually a very scary movie. Look at Stephanie Beacham in the axe. But it's called And Now the Screaming Starts, and it's the dead hand that crawls, kills, and lives. But I can definitely see the influence on this movie. And again, this is supposed to be somewhere in Europe in the 18th, 19th century, who knows, twinkly, twinkly Cinderella times. But like Stephanie Beacham just got this big bouffant. Like, come on, girl.
Yeah. Stephanie Beacham just looks very 1970s.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Troop Beverly Hills, we should probably
tell
talk
me.
about Lady Roxana Helzebuff, played by Heather Hopper, who is in Troop Beverly Hills.
She sure is.
Who is her character in Troop Beverly Hills?
She is the character that is in therapy, so she analyzes everyone.
Sure.
She's just like, I think that you're... Also, I think separately, I think there were two things. I think her dad was a movie director.
Sure, her dad is like...
He's like a big director.
Is the big director.
So he's always on location.
And he doesn't have time for her.
Right.
Yeah.
So because of that, she's in therapy, and so she's just analyzes everyone. She's just like, hyperactive, ADHD. So that's her character. She's the like brainy, girl.
She also played Nikki on Good Morning Miss Bliss.
She sure did.
Saved by the Bell before it was retooled.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she was one of the ones that got the axe when they dug Bayside High School out of the ground in Indiana and transported it via helicopter to Pacific Palisades.
I really like Miss Bliss. Good Morning Miss Bliss.
I love Good Morning
I think
Miss
it's super
Bliss.
charming. Yeah.
It's so good.
I mean, maybe it's just sort of 80s Haley Mills that I'm just very taken with.
That voice.
That voice, and I like that it's just kind of built around her.
Right.
I love to see Bayside High School with competent adults in it.
Let me tell you this. There's a practical working office.
It's actually run like a high school.
Like a school. Like, go to the office. There's like an office, and like behind the office is buildings. Like, how you have to go into the office, and then behind there where the secretaries are.
Like a school.
And then like down a hallway. Yeah. Like a normal actual
I like Haley Mills gets to call Zach Morris out on all of his bullshit.
All of his piece of shit antics. Yep. Yes, indeed.
But yeah, this actress, Heather Hopper, on Good Morning Miss Bliss. And
Heather Hopper, she goes to all the I don't know all of them, but when Troop Beverly Hills was having their little moment and having their little reunion, she was there. Mm-hmm. She was there. So unlike some people we won't mention, who refuse to go to Troop Beverly Hills reunions, but Heather Hopper's there, and Good Morning Miss Bliss. Unfortunately, not streaming anywhere right now.
I think that if you buy the digital copies on Amazon and iTunes, I think it comes with it.
Yeah, if you just get Saved by the Bell.
I think it's included in all of the box sets.
I think ever since that, is it a Shout Factory release?
It's that Shout Factory
Ever
DVD.
since the Shout Factory release, when you get the Saved by the Bell box set, you get Good Morning Miss Bliss and the 2 sequel movies, Hawaiian Style and Vegas Wedding, which are insane.
Yeah.
Both of them. Mind-blowing. cinematic experiences. But
So
something about Good Morning Miss Bliss. Go back.
So okay, so Elvira's Haunted Hills. When I was watching it tonight, there's something about this story that I think there's kind of it's so convoluted. When
there's
you
a lot of-
break
there's a lot of
down
story.
what this movie is about, but I just watched 2 Roger Corman movies like this back to back.
Yeah.
The Haunted Palace and Massacre of the Red Death. And all of these stories are like this.
Yeah, yeah.
They're all so convoluted, but what's fun about them is the story doesn't really matter just because they're all such a mood that you're kind of just there for the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, they're all vibes movies.
Totally. Okay, so, side note, we bought at Spirit Halloween a gargoyle candle holder from the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland.
It's actually like official Haunted Mansion merch, too.
It is. It's official, like, Haunted Mansion. It looks like the gargoyles that are, like, on the wall. It's like a sconce, right? And he's got his arms up, and he holds 2 candles, 2 taper candles. And my whole thing is I can't find a damn taper candle anywhere to save my life. They're not at Ace Hardware. Like, they're probably buried somewhere at Target. But I want, like, a red.
You want a red Hammer horror movie candle.
And we're sitting there watching.
That would be like on a candelabra.
We're sitting there watching
when
the
you're
Haunted
walking
Palace.
down a dark hallway.
And that bitch has a gold candelabra with like 50 red candles on it. And I was like, I bet you in 1971 you could walk into any corner store,
any hardware store, and
just be
pick
like,
one up.
I need red candles.
Go
And
get
they're
your
like,
prop wrangler to go walk to the corner store.
any color you want, right? And they got taper candles for you: green, red, purple, blue, gold, for your freaking candelabra at your house, on your piano, above your mantle. Now I'm just like, I guess I'm gonna go to Amazon, but then I gotta get like 500. I just need 2 red. And there's a witchy store in town, and they got colored candles, but they're like witchy colored candles, so they're like kind of small. They're not like birthday cake small, but they're not like big enough for a regular candle.
Spell casting candles.
Spell candles. So they're like in between birthday cake and like candelabra. If that makes any sense. I'd put birthday cake candles in that little green gargoyle, but I don't think they'll fit.
You might need a few of them.
At any rate, I'm looking for a red or a purple taper candle. Listeners, I'll give you our P.O. box and link in bio. You can send us those taper candles. Anyhow, they were all full in the Haunted Palace, and I was like, this is the shit that I love. This like super like, you could see that this candelabra was probably not gold when they got it.
Yeah.
And they just spray painted the shit out of it.
Another thing that I love about
but it fits. It looks great.
Another thing that I love about all of those old 70s movies is you have like your big set piece like living room.
Yeah.
But then you go into another room and it just looks like a room from the 1960s.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is so funny.
Yeah. But I love that shit too. Yeah.
Is that when it kind of like drifts away from its production design?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you. The 19th century by way of like mid 20th century is a real fucking mood, and it's kind of amazing. But I feel like that was like you would walk into a house and it would be very like baroque furniture, like very like Versailles-esque, like like what is like polyester, like John Waters polyester, like powder blue velvets,
just
and
kind of
gold accents.
I mean, what was that weird decorating motif in polyester that you would see living like it's like a country chalet? I don't know.
Yeah, it's French provincial.
A French provincial living room. That's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fucking love it.
So interesting. Yeah.
I love like a pink toilet. Appliances that were like colors. Mm-hmm. That weren't just white or black or whatever. You get like, I think I would like a green refrigerator.
A yellow countertop.
Yeah, I think that we were more adventurous with our design and our aesthetics.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of made its way into all of those movies, too.
I have this photo of Stephanie Beacham up on my iPad right now from Secret Handjob, and this outfit, the hat, the Austin Powers frilly like cravat, the like Marie Antoinette curls. I can't, oh my gosh. I mean, they had the Hammer horror movies had the advantage of the actual English countryside, whereas Roger Corman movies were probably just, I don't know, where the hell did they shoot those? Like New Jersey somewhere.
I think that who was the production company that did a lot of American?
The beach movie,
American International,
American Independent, American International, AI something, AIP, American International Pictures.
I think so. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, but yeah, I love a French provincial, early 70s living room. I just like, and the what was really evocative in those Corman and Hammer movies, and maybe was missing in this, is the atmosphere. And I think what they would do is kind of like maybe pump in some smoke.
Sure.
And this movie almost looked a little too clean. And that's part of what we're missing of the film grain and all that. Maybe if they pumped in some smoke for some atmosphere. But I think on HD it would have looked like smoke.
Sure.
And it wouldn't have looked like that gauzy.
And maybe just hard to get the type of mood lighting that I'm sure that when Cassandra wrote in her first script of when the reveal of the coach with the horses, that the coach like revealed itself from this bank of fog. And when they're out shooting in the middle of the sticks in Transylvania,
like, there it is.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, they definitely talked a lot about on the documentary about getting certain camera equipment from the States or from England that you had to ship it to Romania. And this isn't a Miramax production.
Right.
That, I mean, sometimes customs would seize it and you just wouldn't get it.
Oh, gosh,
so you just had to be sort of at the mercy of what was available in Romania.
Yeah, I could imagine like VAT charges and all that going to, and especially at a time when it wasn't just like, oh yeah, you're making a movie here.
Yeah,
when there's just what is this? What are you doing? Why are you sending this here from America? Yeah, I can see that being an issue. It's just I am like, you just have to think of like, what if there was $30 million and like a legit
sure,
a bigger a tour.
I mean, this director had just really come from television. Too.
Yeah.
And he got the job because he was a huge fan of the character of Elvira and all of the old Edgar Allan Poe movies.
Right. So they had this when she spoke to him and said like, I want this to look like AIP Roger Corman.
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe
he
movie.
knew exactly
said, yes,
the direction that
it
it needed to go in.
Yeah. And I think when you find that person that understands your vision, you're more, you're quick to be like, fuck yes, let's do this,
But I know what you mean of that if this movie did have a traditional studio mid-range budget.
Yeah.
Just imagine how fucking rad it would look. If Cassandra really had everything at her disposal to make a old Roger Corman movies from the 60s, like what would that look like?
Yeah, totally. But that being said, like these sets are huge.
Yeah.
Like
I think for the most part,
it's successful.
There's a lot on screen that reads like that.
Yeah.
That you can really see the work that they put into the movie. In certain scenes.
Because when you look at stills of it, you're just like, okay, great. I think there are some things that work really well, but maybe you need a little context. Like, what is his name?
The stable stud.
The stable stud.
I want to talk about the stable stud.
We have to talk
Adrian,
about the stable stud.
I really like this character. I think it's pretty funny.
It is funny. It is
so
funny.
They talk about how this role was intended for Fabio.
Yeah.
And Fabio wanted too much money, so they had to pretty much hire a local actor out of Romania who, by the looks of his body, he looks like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
That he has this huge jack body, but didn't speak a word of English. So the entire performance had to be dubbed, which I think is pretty funny.
And it clearly, he's not speaking. It's not even like he said the lines and they dubbed him over because his accent was too thick.
He's just saying.
I don't even think he's speaking English.
He's just seeing it. He's just saying it in Romanian.
Yeah. Gabi Andronace. He's got a couple of movies under his belt. I mean, maybe after this, he just was like, "Yes, I am an actor now."
He got a SAG card.
Yeah.
He could do Dracula the Impaler.
Yeah, Dracula the Impaler in 2002 and Cerberus in 2005. But, you know, if you watch a lot of those like Italian giallo horror movies, happens all the time. Happens all the time. There are, you know, not and even before the giallo horror movies, like going back to something like, what is it, the Vampires of Mars or whatever? Like you watch those weird movies and there's just like everybody is dubbed over.
They did it in The Mask of the Red Death with a dwarf character.
Okay.
That has a speaking voice that does not match the actors at all.
Sure.
And it's almost comical.
Yeah.
Of how they dub him.
Yeah. And in this one, Elvira kind of looks at the screen and she's just like, how's he doing that?
Yeah.
How's he doing that with his
mouth? And I think that shit's pretty funny.
Yeah, it works. It works. It's like
it works.
It's something that they weren't expecting or intending.
But they made it a part of the joke.
They made it a part of the joke.
Yeah.
And they ran with it. And that's something someone like Cassandra, when you come from improv and you come from financing your own goddamn movie, like you're able to like fix the cracks, slap some spackle on things and just kind of make it work for you. So yeah, I think that was fun. I think that's a fun, like successful little bit in it. Yeah, Richard Chamberlain pulling out at the last minute. It was very last minute when he pulled out, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And we get Richard O'Brien. And yeah, I mean, it's freaking Riff Raff from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Icon. I don't know how naive this is going to make me. Listeners, there is a Rocky Horror sequel called Shock Treatment.
Oh, Shock
from 1981.
I don't know. This looks pretty D-list though.
So it's got Richard O'Brien, Patricia Quinn, and Nell Campbell, who were Riff Raff, Magenta, and Columbia.
Mm-hmm. Dame Edna's in it. Barry Humphrey.
Yeah, Dame Edna's in it. It's got Ruby Wax.
Huh.
It's got, it's got Rick from The Young Ones, Rick
Maybe
Mayo.
I have a feeling we're going to be talking about
I think so.
Rocky Horror very
so
soon,
we're gonna have
finally
to be
on the
doing
podcast.
Some research about
so
this.
maybe we might have to watch this. Jessica Harper's in it from Suspiria.
Yeah, and I mean the two main characters, Brad and Janet.
Interesting. I was going to say this is a pretty like D-list movie, but it looks like it has like a pretty good cast. It might be worth checking out.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, sorry if we're naive on this one. I don't know the history behind it. I don't know if the Rocky Horror people are like, fuck yes, we love it, or if there's like no money grab.
We're gonna have to do some.
We'll figure it out.
But
but it exists, and I did not know it existed. And that's the thing. Richard O'Brien, Patricia Quinn, and Nell Campbell are all playing different characters.
Sure.
They're not playing Riff Raff, Magenta, and Columbia. So, but it is, for all intents and purposes, a Rocky Horror sequel. So, yeah, we're going to have to do some
spiritual sequel. We'll have to watch it.
Yeah, so listeners, get ready for our Shock Treatment review coming up. But do you remember where you were when you were watching Rocky Horror and you were like, Riff Raff can get it?
I think I realized that in probably the past decade.
Yeah.
That
because as a kid, when you first watch it, you're like, oh, he's a ghoul.
Yeah, Richard O'Brien's kind of sexy.
He's got a hunchback,
yeah.
But then when you watch as a grown up, you're like,
he's kind of hot.
Oh, wait a minute. I mean, here we are, 20 years later at the time of Haunted Hills. Now it's like full like 35.
But yeah,
40 years later.
Richard O'Brien is doing some solid work in this movie.
Yeah.
He gets the type of movie that he's in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think for an Elvira movie, you need I think it almost works better that it's Richard O'Brien than I think Richard Chamberlain would have been. Oh wow, great! You got a prestige actor.
I could see Richard Chamberlain maybe in the Dr. Bradley character if you just kind of skew that guy a little older.
Mm-hmm.
That I could maybe see that, but
And I could definitely see a young Richard Chamberlain as that character for sure. Yeah, I like that. But I think that maybe Richard O'Brien ups the cool factor a little bit because it's Elvira, so you like that there's some kind of cool punk kind of element in there. Because, at the end of the day, we always say it, we've been saying it for years, Elvira's drag, Elvira's punk.
Yeah.
Elvira's it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think of the jokes or, relying on her boobs or whatever, it's she fucking came up in the late 70s out of nowhere hosting a local TV, Saturday afternoon horror show.
And the phone calls didn't stop coming for that character.
Yeah.
And for a very one-dimensional character like that, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That you can have that sort of longevity with Elvira. And for the most part, Elvira's kind of retired the character in the past few years. That she doesn't really do appearances at Elvira, but the brand is still alive and well. I mean, they were just kind of doing a retrospec at
Not Scary Farm.
Not Scary Farm this year.
Yeah.
I think that they did sort of a clip show.
Yeah.
In the main theater, in the Charles M. Schultz Theater.
I mean, if they're not selling DVDs of all the Elvira shows over the years,
so we saw
they are losing money.
So we saw 3 of the Elvira shows. We saw Elvira's Cinema Seance.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second one that we saw?
Was that the Freak Show?
It was the Freak Show one. I couldn't remember if the Freak Show
was
stuff
part of
was
the Cinema
in
Seance.
Cinema Seance. I can't remember.
Yeah.
We definitely saw a second one. I can't remember the theme of it, but the third one was pretty much a condensed version of
Mistress of the Dark.
Mistress of the Dark.
As rewritten and co-starring
Jackie
Beat.
Yep. She goes to Jackie Beat a lot for writing, which I like. Because Jackie Beat knows a one-liner.
Yes.
And Elvira is full of just one-line jokes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jackie Beat is the woman for the job.
She's the queen of the one-liner. And I think that's kind of Jackie's wheelhouse too, is getting in there, cutting you kind of deep, but still the humor's there, right? It's never really too mean because it's,
and also,
a little
with
winky.
Jackie's humor, the joke is always on herself, too.
Yeah.
So it can never skew that mean, too.
I do sassy, I don't do bitchy.
Yeah.
All right, my time's valuable, too, so hit it. All right, listeners, if you don't get our season 2 Drag Race jokes, those ones maybe some deep cuts. But
all right, what else is there of Elvira's Haunted Hills that you enjoy?
The Titanic joke at the end.
Oh, I was about to mention that when we were just now watching it,
we noticed it the first time. I mean, we always notice it. You can't not notice it.
Yeah.
But we're just...
When the beautiful matte painting of the castle is collapsing into the ground because I guess this castle is built on a fault line.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there could be earthquakes in Romania.
Why not? There's
Why
tectonic
not?
plates
There's
all
tectonic
over the
plates
globe.
everywhere. Why couldn't there be one under a castle in Romania?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a Titanic joke with some kind of sound like "My Heart Will Go On" music.
Some flute, little flute music,
and just kind of Cassandra and Mary Jo Smith's reaction.
They're just looking wistfully
to seeing the castle.
All right, are we still looking?
Sinking into the ground.
Still looking?
So stupid.
Yeah. So I like a corny joke. This movie's chock full of them. Wardrobe's great. Styling is on point. You know, I think the story gets a little convoluted and you just don't get too caught up in it.
But then you have to remind myself, like I mentioned, that all of these stories are convoluted. When you try to break down all of those plot lines, it's just like...
Don't do it.
It's all nothing.
Yeah. So just kind of sit back, watch for the jokes, watch for the visual humor. The dance number, the musical number is great, you know. And there's just some funny stuff. I think Cassandra has really great chemistry with kind of everybody. She's got really great chemistry with Dr. Bradley, you know, with Zuzu, of course. Yeah, she just knows what she's doing. She knows the character. And you just kind of understand that it's an Elvira showcase.
Yeah, Elvira's career is so interesting too, of just kind of this resurgence post-social media.
Yeah.
Of just kind of this whole new audience that Cassandra can reach with an Instagram account that kind of breathes some life into this character that you would assume would have died a long time ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially being so regional. I think, you know, before Instagram, it's like if you didn't live somewhere where there was a con, you would never get to like really interact. And now it's like you can just see what she's posting, and she posts videos and she's talking to the camera and she's talking to us and all that stuff. And that's really cool. And I feel like things like Instagram and, you know, social media it kind of opens your eyes to that thing and then we talk about this a lot on this show, that thing that you didn't think anybody else was a big fan of.
Yeah.
You're just like, I was so obsessed with this, and I thought that I was the only person that was so
And I do
kind of
get Elvira did have a moment in the 1980s that it was all around the country that she would just show up in like beer ads.
Yeah.
She would be in advertisements in liquor stores and like a standee.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a moment of the 1980s where this very specific regional character kind of caught on like wildfire, that everybody kind of knew her by name.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it's just really fun to see that character evolve in the 2010s.
Yes.
And now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really fun to see Cassandra at a point in her career, kind of like RuPaul, that she can maybe step away from the character of Elvira and she can be Cassandra. Yeah. Of that when John Mahoney did that Netflix thing of Los Angeles, they did it live. Mm-hmm. She went on that. So she can kind of make appearances as Cassandra, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I don't mind seeing her as Cassandra. Yeah. I'm not like, she has to be dressed as Elvira.
Oh, no, I love it.
I'm fine seeing her as Cassandra. Yeah, I think the longevity is there for a purpose. You know, we just talked about in our Bride of Chucky episode, there's a lot of kind of like little memes and things back and forth about, wouldn't it be great to see a movie with Elvira and Dolly Parton playing long-lost sisters?
I think that
fighting crime and solving mysteries.
I think that the Venn diagram in between Elvira and Dolly Parton is Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, she meets them right in the middle.
Yep.
You know, and I love that. I love that people still find a way to like make it relevant and all that. And I love this idea of Elvira and Dolly being kind of two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, Dolly's a little older.
Yeah.
Elvira has always had that thing of people are like, well, you know, she's 70.
She's not 70. Yeah.
But people have been saying that for like 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, you know, Elvira, she's got to be 70. It's like, girl, all right, calm down. I think she's like 68.
She's just been working in this industry for that long.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think, you know, and Mistress of the Dark, she's probably in her 30s, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and that was a long time ago. So, yeah, but I love that that this idea of her and Dolly and people making memes about that, and now like bringing Jennifer Tilly into the conversation with like the three of them. But I think it would the basic idea in Mistress of the Dark of her being this like, I was born into being a witch and I didn't know it. That's something great that could be explored. Doesn't have to be. But yeah, Dolly and Elvira like driving around in a van, like fighting evil.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. I want to see some type of a road trip movie.
Dolly's the older sister.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer Tilly is Jennifer Tilly's like, she's no spring chicken either. But I was going to say, she's like the niece. She could be the younger sister.
They have to go bail her out of jail.
They could be three sisters.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Charmed the golden years.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'd love to see Cassandra just show up in more bit character work now. Now that she's getting older, I think that was what was kind of fun about. We don't want to talk too much about Rob Zombie's Munsters movie, but it was fun to see her show up as the real estate agent in something like that.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and be Cassandra the actress.
I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more stuff like that for Cassandra's career.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
she mentioned in the Q&A of her working on a documentary. I'd be curious about that.
Yeah,
I'd like to see Elvira kind of chronicled in some sort of a documentary format.
I think that would be great as well. Which reminds me, I gotta listen to the audiobook.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start that. That'll be my October spooky. Like, don't have that long of a commute, but I'll listen to it.
Yeah,
I'll listen to it for sure. But I love that kind of stuff.
Well, Pete, do you have any last thoughts on Elvira's Haunted Hills? How long did it take you to figure out the Haunted Hills is a pun for her gigantic breastises?
Not very long.
Yeah.
Not very long. I think that was kind of an implication. But, I do think that my heart will always belong to Mistress of the Dark. But I am glad that we own Haunted Hills. And like you said, every time we watch it, I get a little bit more of an appreciation for it. I laugh a little bit more.
Same.
I just love to see Cassandra working and being Elvira, and that the more content, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get a hold of it to watch it, try doing that. Let's see. I don't think it's streaming anywhere without having to rent it. But we're checking it out right now. Yeah, Prime Video. Gotta rent it.
Looks like on Prime.
No, you can.
It's on Prime.
Oh, it's on Tubi.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can stream it.
It looks like it's on Prime.
Oh, yeah, never mind. It's on
Tubi.
And it's on Prime, Tubi,
and
Shudder. It's on
Shudder.
everything.
Yeah.
It's on everything. Yeah.
It's available.
You can watch it free with ads on Tubi, Pluto, and Prime.
Oh, this strikes me as a ship in the night of a platform like Tubi.
Yeah.
That Elvira's Haunted Hills
Roku
is
channel,
always there.
The Roku channel, Tubi, Shudder, Pluto, Prime Video, Shout TV. It's there. Sorry,
I mean,
guys.
probably one of
it's
the
there.
benefits of Cassandra.
You're just gonna have to watch it with
financing this movie herself. That there's no real studio ties.
Yeah.
So if she wants to release it out to make it a little
maybe
money, she can do it.
A little scratch from all these. Yeah, maybe she get a little scratch from all these apps having it on there with ads. Hopefully, so go watch it, start it, and let it end. Finish the whole movie, and Cassandra will get that 35 cents or whatever. But it's available, so you can go watch it. It's not like you got to rent it or anything. So how about that, listeners? So check it out. We'll definitely post that in the socials so you can find it to stream. And while you're there, go watch Tales of the Crypt Keeper, the animated series. It's really funny on TV. You don't have to watch the Munsters. The TV show you do. Not the movie.
Well, Pete.
Yes.
We just wrapped up another October episode.
We sure did. My goodness.
Our next 3 episodes that we are covering are all fucking barn burners. All of them. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Good. Good. That's exciting. Yeah. we always talk about this. It doesn't have to be, I made this big old stink in the Chucky episode that doesn't have to be Halloween to watch scary movies. But does it have to be Christmas to watch a Christmas movie? Yes, it does.
I love.
Yes, it does.
I am a Christmas kid at heart. I know that I might go hard for Halloween on the podcast, but I am that square person that does like to see Christmas decorations in the fall.
Oh, love it. I love Christmas decorations.
I won't even say secretly love it. Openly loved seeing Christmas shit up early.
And proud Christmas
so I'm an
lover.
Proud Christmas kid at heart.
Yeah.
I love all holidays. I'm like Delta work.
But the question remains, do you just watch Home Alone in April?
It has to be November or December.
Oh, there you go.
I like to watch any Christmas movie with the
During
Christmas
the holiday
tree.
season.
I like to look at the Christmas tree as I'm watching it.
Just gaze over at the Christmas tree.
I like to see.
Sigh.
I like to see the Christmas lights reflected on the television set.
TV screen. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, fair enough. Because my big whole thing, I made this big old stink about how it doesn't have to be October to watch.
But
a
I'll
scary
gladly
movie.
watch a movie like Batman Returns 12 months out of the year.
There you go.
I think it just depends.
That's your hybrid Christmas movie. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, fair enough. So, listeners, you can watch a Halloween, a scary movie anytime, but Christmas movies, that's up to you. That's
well. Also,
choice.
Christmas movie. I also view a Christmas movie, if it has at least one Christmas tree in the movie, it qualifies as a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of
it
changes with each movie, in my opinion.
Right. It does. Like you said, Batman Forever.
Batman Returns.
I'm sorry. Showgirls.
That new Nicole Kidman Netflix movie, I think, can be watched 12 months out of the year.
Steel Magnolias, but it takes place over the entire year.
Well, Steel Magnolias is like a multi-holiday movie. That's what makes that fun.
It's a year in the life, of all of them.
I like to watch Steel Magnolias around Easter.
Yeah, well, it starts and ends at Easter.
Because my favorite scenes are the Easter scenes.
It starts and ends, so that's a perfect time for your Steel Magnolias rewatch. I agree. Maybe we'll make a big graph of like when to watch your holiday movies. But so listeners, essentially, don't listen to me. Do what you want. Watch whatever movie you want to watch.
You can watch both
year.
Elvira Mistress of the Dark and Elvira's Haunted Hills 12 months out of the year.
Yes, and you can watch Home Alone in the dead of summer.
I mean, I feel like when I was a kid, I would watch that movie in the dead of summer.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Yeah, I agree. As kids, I just watched Home Alone, whatever.
Yeah. Also, you know what's another? Gremlins.
Sure.
They released Gremlins in the summer.
Sure.
Too.
Summer blockbuster. Well, I think we've reached the end of our episode. Time to wrap it up. But as always, we want to thank everybody for sticking with us to the very, very end. But before we do get to the very, very end,
Patreon shout out?
I think it's time for some Patreon shout outs. As always, we want to say a great big hello and thank you to all of our active patrons over on patreon.com/movies that made us gay, including brand new patrons like Leah, SB, Ashanti. Is it Ashanti? Brian, Sarah, Richard, Mark, Jeff, Deja, Amy, Erica, Anna, Mitchie, our friends at How Do You Drew, Andy, Kate, Pep, Roberto, Daisy, Patrick, Kelly, Chrissy, Stephen, Desiree, Laura, Thomas, Lori, Jess, Rabbit, Lawrence, Lisa, Alexis, Thomas, Millie, Ted, Benny, Melanie, Susan, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Aaron, John, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and Rufino. You guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being patrons. Patreon.com/movies that made us gay.
We have some really fun stuff for Patreon in the month of October.
Yes.
This month on TV shows that keep us gay, we are talking about a few of the Roseanne Halloween episodes that should be out very shortly after the release of this episode. We're going to try to release them a little earlier in the month so you Patreon subscribers can enjoy the Halloween content.
Yes.
We'll get it out before the 31st. So we're talking finally about Roseanne on the podcast.
Halloween. We love it. Those are some of our favorite
Get
Roseanne
ready
episodes.
to uncancel Roseanne on the Patreon podcast.
At least the show.
Yep.
At least the show.
And then
And that's at the $5 level. TV
and then
that keeps us gay.
at the $10 level, you'll get to watch with this commentary.
Yes, indeed. You'll get all the TV shows and you'll get to watch all this commentary tracks where we watch a movie and we record a commentary as the movie is playing. We give you instructions on how to sync up our track with your movie so you can play the movie in your TV, Apple TV, Roku, on your laptop, the way you kids watch movies these days. I'll never understand. And then you play the podcast episode on anything else, on your phone, on your Echo, whatever. And we give you instructions on how to sync it up, and it's like we're watching the movie right there with you. It's really fun. And if you don't want to go through all that hubbub, you can just listen to it as a bonus episode.
Yeah.
So there are
Works either way.
quite a few of those at the $10 level. So you get all those bonus episodes plus the TV shows. Great stuff. Movies That Made Us Gay patreon.com/movies that made us gay. There you go.
You can write us a review on iTunes.
Ooh, we got a new review.
Yeah.
Let's read it. Let's see. Shows. There we are. Got a brand new review over on Apple Podcasts. This is from Apple Podcast listener Dilly Dally Doo. I've been listening weekly ever since the first Drew Drogi episode and honestly thought I already left a review. One of my favorite podcasts, 5 stars. Well, Dilly Dally Doo, oh my goodness, thank you so much.
I love the Grease 2 episode.
The Grease 2 episode is so much fun. Drew Drogi is a great guest. That is a really funny episode. He's a really funny comic. Check him out. But yeah, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, if you have an iPhone or an iPad, it comes pre-installed. So just search Movies That Made Us Gay, and you can write us a review. It's free. It only takes a few minutes, and really helps us out. You can also give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
So please go do that.
You can follow us on all of the apps. We're most active on Instagram.
Yes.
And Movies That Made Us Gay.
We're at Movies That Made Us Gay on Instagram. We're most active there. So, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a share, leave us a comment. All of that stuff counts as engagement, and all of that engagement really helps our show reach a wider audience. So thank you for following us over there and engaging with us however you can. That all really helps. So if you want to follow our personals, feel free. My name's Pete. I'm at Peter Lasagna on Instagram.
Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and follow my Letterboxd.
All right, everybody. We will see you soon.
Bye.
Unpleasant dreams.
Unpleasant dreams.
Bye.